Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. On this channel, you've seen me literally beat up my jade plants, and I do this to show just how resilient they truly are. I've done numerous pruning videos. I've also done a massive root prune on one of my larger plants. I basically cut off 2/3 of the root system just to keep it in the same size pot. And today I'll be doing the same thing. I'm going to be putting one of my jades to the test. I'll be cutting off every single leaf and branch on the plant. So let's check it out. So the reason why I decided to cut this plant up is because of the leaves. Normally they're supposed to be green and very vibrant, but as you can see, they don't look healthy at all. This one has a bunch of speckling on it, and this one kind of looks like it has a gross little scab. And it's just kind of all over the plant. Now this is pretty consistent with what I would think would be thrips. I haven't actually found any thrips, but this is definitely a pest that sucks the sap out of the leaves. The only way to get rid of this damage is to cut off the leaves or the stems and let the plant kind of reset itself. It'll branch out naturally. So I'm going to cut off all the branches and give it a fresh start. Every time I come across information on how to prune a jade plant, you'll see things like you got to prune it at a 45-degree angle, just very specific things like that. I always kind of laugh just because once you cut it off, the top portion of the stem, it's going to dry up and shrivel off to the next node. So it doesn't matter if you prune it at a 45-degree angle or anything like that. So normally I would propagate these extra stems, but since they've had pests or they have pest damage, I'm simply just going to throw them out because I don't want it to continue to be an issue with the rest of my houseplants. Now sometimes when you have thrips, they do lay eggs in the leaf tissue itself. Now you can see I did give it some water, and the water is just sitting on the top, so definitely I'm going to have to repot it at some time and put it in some different soil. So right now I'm just going to hang it back in the south-facing window over the next few weeks, like I said. Hopefully we can get some new growth. Here's a jade plant that I did pretty much the same thing with. I did a very hard prune on it, and you can see it is getting new growth, which is extremely healthy looking. The leaves are nice and plump. They're kind of a darker green, and there's no damage on the leaves. And this is what happens when you make a prune. It branches out from that last node. And like I said, the portion where you cut dies back to the last node. So there is two little branches, but here is the stem that when you cut off, it just dries up and falls off like that. It looks like a little pancake. Like I said, they're super resilient. They are not going to die if they have minimal leaves or branches. There was a comment that was left on a video, a YouTube short that I made yesterday. There's a couple things in that comment that I want to address if you do a prune like this. I pretty much read every single comment that you guys leave in my videos, and I like to thank this person for this comment because it kind of segues into, I guess, an important topic about watering after doing a hard prune or repotting. It says, I see your soil is wet from washing the leaves. Something I learned from bonsai enthusiasts about jades is to only hard prune when the soil is bone dry. That will speed up the process to get new buds and lower the chances of root rot since there's no leaves for transpiration. Love your videos. Keep it up. So thank you for this comment. And my response was, I only ever wash the leaves if the plant needs to be watered or needed to be watered. But yes, I agree with your point. I'm going to try and keep this as simple as I can, but that comment is absolutely correct. You shouldn't water after you repot a plant just because you want to give those roots a chance to heal. If you start just bombarding it or soaking it with water, that leaves it susceptible to infections and rot. Now the same can be said for pruning because obviously there are, well, on this plant, no leaves, but when you do a prune, there's minimal leaves for the plant to be able to photosynthesize and use or utilize that water in the soil. So it's going to take much longer for that plant to get rid of the soil moisture. It's probably going to rely mainly on evaporation to getting rid of the soil moisture. I just brought in this other jade as an example here, but my rule of thumb is I will only ever give a jade plant water if it needs to be watered, and that includes spraying off the leaves. If the plant doesn't need water, then I don't spray off the leaves. The only time that I thoroughly rinse them off is if the plant is absolutely bone dry and it shows signs of needing water. Typically, I don't need like a moisture meter or anything to tell me if a jade needs to be watered. Normally they have very thick and plump leaves, and if you're able to bend or squeeze them then it needs to be watered. So this one, it's very firm, it's very plump. I'm not able to fold it. So this one doesn't need any water, even though the soil is absolutely bone dry, like it's crispy. I am not gonna water this plant for probably another week or so, or at least I'll check back, and maybe it'll need water just after the little leaf test. I like to call it the taco test. So if you can fold it, then it needs to be watered. Before I chopped all the stems off, this plant definitely needs to be watered. Some of the leaves were looking a little bit dehydrated, and there was actually a few that had turned yellow and had fallen off. So before I even decided to prune it, I was just cleaning up the leaves, giving it some water, and then in the process of kind of analyzing or evaluating the leaves, I decided to cut them off just because it was most likely from pest damage. Now, if you're spraying off your leaves with water and you're watering your plant, just make sure that you give it a kind of a breezy area. You want to make sure that there is sufficient airflow to help dry off the leaves. Otherwise, if you have water droplets sitting on the leaves for an extended period of time, that's when you run into like the powdery mildew and all that kind of stuff, fungal issues. So that's why I watered this plant and then decided to chop off the stems, because I was looking at it and I thought I would basically restart it just because of the pest damage. Now, going back to that comment about transpiration, this morning I woke up and I looked at the plant and I noticed when it was hanging in its basket in my south-facing window, it actually had some little water droplets that were sitting on top of the stems. Normally you'd find little water droplets on the ends of leaves with guttation. I think that's how you pronounce it. It is a process of the plant trying to expel excessive water. Sometimes it can be a sign of overwatering, or that your soil is just retaining too much moisture and your plant is trying to expel it. I'm not worried about it because it was watered yesterday. Now, if I was seeing this for a number of days in a row kind of thing, if I'm seeing it like a week after it's been watered, then that's when I would start to get really nervous. But with this one, the soil is absolutely rock hard. It definitely needs to be repotted, and the chances that the soil is completely saturated throughout the entire root ball or soil system is pretty rare, just because of how compact the soil is. Most of the water probably didn't even penetrate past maybe like an inch or so. So that's why I'm not worried about this one being overwatered. The roots still look really healthy. This one's gonna be getting some new soil once it starts to bud out. Plus it's in a terracotta pot. It is in a hanging basket, which it did have some excess water in the bottom, so I dumped that out. And now I'm just letting this kind of air dry. And like I said, I'm not worried about there being any root rot issues. Even now, a few hours after the water droplets have been on the stems, they're pretty much completely dried up, so I'm not worried about it. If you're looking for more information about guttation as well as transpiration, there's a really good informative video from Ashley Gardening in Canada. She explains the entire process and the difference between the two. I am not that scientific, so I'm not too sure which one it was, if it was guttation or if it was transpiration, but regardless, it had some excess moisture that it was trying to get rid of. Otherwise, the only other thing is make sure that it continues to get bright light. I did have a comment on a video, I don't know if it was on YouTube or Instagram, but someone had asked if they should put it in shade. That's the complete opposite of what you should do. It continues, or it needs to continue to photosynthesize, so jade plants, they need a ton of light. So if you don't already have it in the brightest spot in your house, just make sure that you slowly acclimate it to higher light. That way the plant can continue to grow and thrive. Now, if you have a jade plant in low light, it's probably going to look like something like this. I'll put up a picture in the top corner here. This is a cutting that I gave my neighbor a couple of years ago, and it is severely stretched out. So that is telling me that it is basically searching for higher light. I told him to put it in a brighter location. So hopefully he takes that advice and can kind of get these nodes a little bit closer. So when they're stretched out, basically it's searching for light. So jade plants, they need a lot of light. Otherwise, I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching all my videos. Take care, everyone. Bye.